From deep in the Burbank Media District, it's time for another edition of myBurbank Talks. This podcast is presented by the staff of myBurbank. Now, let's see what's on today's agenda as we join our program.
Hello, everybody. Craig Sherwood here, along with Craig Durling, and of course, it's Ross Benson. So we're here for another week of the week that was and the week that will be for July 17th.
Where's my sweatband? Oh, we're not doing a sports one today, right? We're doing live?
It's all news.
All news. Okay, I got me thinking.
You have nothing to sweat about today.
Not yet.
It was hot today.
How hot was it?
So hot.
It was so hot, I had to put makeup on before the show.
I did see a photo on the social medias, on the interwebs, that somebody was able to bake a loaf of bread in their mailbox.
That was actually not true. And the lady said that was not really true after it went viral. I saw that today on the news also. And they called her on it.
Debunked, just like that.
There was a senior citizen, too, who did it. So I think she felt terrible.
There was a mature woman in the picture with the loaf of bread and the mailbox.
I did see somebody who did cook a pizza on their dashboard.
What would you call that?
I don't know.
I've heard of Pizza Man. I've heard of
Drive and Dash. I mean,
Dash and Drive.
Drive
pizza.
and Dine.
the week that was and the week that will be. How do you like that?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Well, let's get into it. Okay. Starting off with this week, and not much on Monday besides a little baseball from the Dodgers, who Chris had a nice not a walk-off, but a nice grand slam to win a game.
CT3
There we go.
became
that was the
CT4
week-
today.
That's today.
That was
We're
today.
not talking about the week that
No.
was.
That's true. But that was today.
So confused.
Yeah. Okay, so last week on Tuesday, we're going to start off with the police released a video of the officer-involved shooting at the Home Depot that occurred on May 27th. It was actually exactly 45 days after the shooting, which they had to release because of Assembly Bill 1506. That says a video must be released within 45 days of a shooting. And the video was very, very thorough. In fact, if you go to our YouTube page, you can see the video. And it was a very thorough. And really, the officers had, in my opinion, really had he gave them no choice, because you can't sit there when a guy goes to a prone position and then start examining what he might or might not have and think about it. You have to react because lives are on the line. Now, Craig, you're a retired police officer.
Which means I have no official opinion on this.
Not an official opinion, but you have been trained, and if anybody here understands what they went through and the stress of that situation, it would be you.
Right. I did watch the video, and it's an unfortunate event, but very well produced, very thorough, very clear, very transparent. And just looking at the video, I was not there, and I only know what was released in the video, is based on the information the officers had, the threats that he had made to shoot people, and when he came up with what turned out to be, I guess, the knife, the stance, the aggression, all of that, the totality of the circumstances, which is what we talk about when events like that happen. Not one part, this part. The totality of the circumstances, the information and knowledge that the officers on scene had
like they
at the
said,
time.
He had a Beretta, which is a very small handgun, had his hand in that pocket, came out at one time and had his hands up.
He told him he had Beretta, and that's
Right,
how they
yeah.
they were just
So they
guess he
knew.
did that. He told him that.
They made him turn around, pick up his shirt, do all that. But after they hit him with a sponge,
Yeah, the less lethal.
less lethal, I think that pissed him off a little.
It can. If it doesn't work, it can exacerbate a situation, but it's a level of force that was developed as an intermediate use of force before deadly force. So you try those things before.
And like you said, when he went into that stance, hand comes out, right hand holding something, you're into that stance. You don't have to call home and say,
There's not a lot of time to evaluate what's going on. You have the information you have. You have the training you have. You have the knowledge you have. And when I watched the video, if I put myself in the boots of the officers there wasn't a lot of distance between them. And he was started to close the distance. There just isn't.
And they were trying to give him verbal commands and everything to try to get him to cooperate.
And he was putting his hands in his pockets and his waistline.
Have you ever been involved in shooting?
No comment.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
I mean, you know what? In all honesty, even though they did everything right, and it's a shame that he died.
Well, the
Some of those
DA's office will,
Right,
and
but-
the department will decide if they
but-
did everything
Well,
right.
which I mean, it looks like it's a pretty clean shooting, but my point is, those officers have to now live with that the rest of their lives.
Sure.
That they had to take somebody's life, and even though they had to do it because, at that point it was them or him, that's still a very traumatic situation. I'm sure they'll go through some counseling too and things like that too.
And hopefully, and departments in recent years have started taking on that task of making sure their officers are okay after events like this. It wasn't always the case, believe me. But like in this case, where they, somebody that isn't familiar with the parlance might say, well, you had a knife. You didn't have to shoot him. It wasn't a gun. Well, that's why years ago they changed it from necessary force to reasonable force.
And
right? Because
who goes in a
let's say-
prone position
let's-
with a knife?
Let's say he had a remote control in his hand. Was it necessary to shoot him, use deadly force on him after the fact? Not necessarily, probably not, right? But was it reasonable based on the totality of the circumstances?
And the video that we saw, LAPD's been doing, all law enforcement agencies have been doing it because of AB 1506. But I think them coming out with it very quickly, being transparent,
Yeah, they're getting ahead. They're able to get ahead of it.
and for us to be able to see with body worn cameras, store cameras right above, it broke it down. I mean, it doesn't give you much to second guess.
But that's also the reason that they took the full 45 days to do it. They want to make sure everything is correct. With the city attorney's, DA's office, they don't want to put out bad information. So yeah, they have 45 days. Take the 45 days. Now, my lack of desire to comment much further on the event or put myself in the shoes of the officers there, that's because I've been in scenarios like that, and I'm not going to Monday morning quarterback what.
No, and
what they,
we're not
what,
asking you to because
what they did, but
you have firsthand experience to
yeah,
a point.
absolutely.
And of the thought
what I saw of
process.
the body cam footage and all that, I can't say I would have reacted any differently.
And you really can't. They can't say, well, you know what, it was a knife, whatever. They can't wait for him to shoot first, and then say, oh, okay, now he shot a gun, now we can shoot back.
Right.
You can't do it. You can't wait for that because where's that first bullet going to go?
Right.
And
that's why the standard is reasonable force now, and they went away from necessary force.
And I will say,
and they tried to give aid right away too. They didn't just leave him laying on the ground and walk around. They tried to help him right away.
We
They put
played the
tourniquets
tape.
on him.
Yep.
We played the tape within 8 minutes of them saying shots fired. He was being loaded up
Sure.
and going to a trauma
Yeah.
center.
Because the goal is not to kill the person. The goal is to stop their violent behavior. So once that behavior
situation
comes to a close, then life-saving procedures go into place, just as with anybody else. You're not there to
Yeah, in fact, we heard,
let him die.
we put on the tape, we played that tape when officer said, we've applied a tourniquet. They did that immediately.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make comment. Today we got an email to Craig and myself. Our PIO, Brent Feckerty, is being moved to another department within
Going to internal affairs.
internal affairs. And we're going to have a new PIO. Brent did a great job with myBurbank. He kept us up to date. He really was.
We've had
fantastic.
PIOs come and go over the years, and Brent probably is up there in the top 5 easily as being somebody who was always responsive. He would communicate with us on his days off. He would always get. And he would say, "Look, I can't get you that information." And it's not he won't give it, but he has to answer to people up the chain, and he can only give out what he can give out. And we appreciate that. We understand that, but he did a great job. And I'm really happy for him. I'm happy the fact that he keeps progressing in the department, and I think someday he's going to move up the chain, and who knows how high he'll go.
I will say that he, having known Brent, grow up through the Burbank department, went to, I think, a Burbank school, did he not?
Went to Burroughs. He was a heck of a pitcher.
See?
I told him he had filthy stuff. I think he could have gone to the next level.
Well, I'm glad to see him promote. He was very helpful to us. We've had PIOs that come in and told us what to do and how to do things
And criticize
and
us.
how high to jump.
Yep.
And exactly. The new PIO coming in, a lot of people know him. Another Burbank kid, Steve Turner, Sergeant Steve Turner. He used to be up in the Juvenile Bureau. I know Steve for many, many years.
So he's not kidding around anymore.
Oh, that he isn't. He was in the Juvenile Bureau for several years, came out in the field for 6 months, and now the chief put him into PIO, and I think we will have fantastic.
And you've talked to the chief. The chief is thinks it's very important to rotate guys around and have them do different jobs and get different perspectives and things like that.
Yeah, he said he moved around 6 people right now. Brent's job takes over, I think, next Monday.
Yes.
And that's when the 6 are moving. And again, he said the chief has told me personally he's going to do it again in January, so people don't get settled into their chairs, and you learn a lot doing that. So,
with a lot of public agencies, police departments especially, in my own experience, the PIO spot tends to be pretty transitory. People come and go fairly quickly. There's a rotation to it, whether people use it on their way to promote or whatever. People don't seem to stay there super long.
I told him, I responded back to his email and I said, well, you've done your penance. You've actually got through the PIO department now. So there's a lot of guys who really don't want to deal with that, the media and everything else. And he never had a problem. So, good luck, and we'll see you around, here and there, Well,
I was told that he wanted to go into that position if you want to move up the chain.
Yeah.
And Burbank does that. Claudio, who when we started many years ago was a PIO, now a lieutenant.
Derek
Green, now a lieutenant. So there's quite a few PIOs. Honestly, I think the media can be pretty tough. And that shooting, in fact, at Home Depot, Brent went on camera in front of 6 cameras, and he doesn't make an error. You can't go back and go.
And that was on Saturday, which was supposed to be his day off.
Right. So
the life of a PIO. But you think it's a good experience to have if you're going to promote to be a lieutenant? Because very often, if you're the watch commander, if your phone's ringing, you have to make statements. You have to provide information to the media often. So it's good to have that background because there's a lot of legal information, legal knowledge that goes in.
You have to know.
Then with it,
and what you
can release and what you can't. Sure.
So kudos to Brent and Steve. We're looking forward to working with you.
Yep.
Welcome aboard.
Let's move to Wednesday and
another crime.
Ashley did a story. We actually got a tip from one of our readers.
Actually, or Ashley?
Ashley.
But actually, she did the story.
Yes, actually, Ashley did the story. And basically, it was a story one of our readers let us know about that Washington Elementary School had been broken into 3 times in the last couple weeks. And the first 2 times was just minor damage, but the third time they actually got in and did close to $5,000 in damage. They discharged a fire extinguisher. They broke a teacher's laptop. And, it's too bad that, I know the police, Ross has heard the police doing extra patrols at Washington Elementary School.
Used to.
There's only so much, they can do. I guess they don't have an alarm system or something or any kind of
that school
no camera
is growing. If you didn't know, a lot of people don't know where Washington Elementary School is. It's up on Washington Court. And, we got that tip from a follower of ours that sent us a tweet.
It was actually, one of the instructional aides from the school.
And that's how we picked up on it. And yes, I have heard PDs out there doing patrol. Crimes like that, they're going to, especially with the damage they caused this last time, there's going to be fingerprints. Folks, you don't get away with stuff like that.
Yeah, they're not stealing anything. They're just going in there and causing vandalism. And
it's during
I'm sure has risen to the level of a felony by now.
Exactly.
$5,000 in damage. That's
sure. Yep.
So if I guess we ran the story. If you're in any financial position or you want to make a donation to that school, I guarantee you could send it to Washington Elementary. And
because I understand that the teacher involved lost a lot of her personal things that she bought out of her pocket.
Well, that would be if our followers, some people might own a stationery store and have
a GoFundMe or anything.
Well, they haven't set one up, but it's we're here in Burbank, so I think people, if you want to help that teacher out, and if you know anything, say something.
Yep. Also on Wednesday, we found out that Providence St. Joseph Medical Center was recognized for their commitment to high-quality stroke care, which is a great honor because I've always heard that when it comes to, heart attacks, strokes like that, that St. Joseph's is the Cadillac of hospitals. That's where you want to go. That's where you want to be. They're no longer a level 1 trauma center, for gunshot wounds and major accidents, but they focus now on, heart attacks and strokes and other kinds of care. And now they're being recognized for it.
Well, I've been there, not as a patient, thank God. I have been there as a patient. And both my family parents have been. But they now have the Cusimano Neurological Center. And St. Joe's is known, if you have a stroke, if you get paramedics to treat you within 20 minutes, they can start moving drugs that will break up the blood clot or whatever it needs. And if they get you in the hospital within a certain amount of time, your recovery, a lot of people know people that have had strokes and they have debilitating.
Right.
The longer that blockage is there, untreated,
the more damage
it
causes.
is
Getting to them quickly, and it's just like CPR. The quicker you get on CPR, the better chance you have of surviving. So,
well, that was one of the reasons in the new ER. In the old hospital, they used to have to take you down to the basement to do a CAT scan. Now there's a CAT scan right there in ER. As soon as paramedics get you in there, they can do a CAT scan, and that can start the procedure on getting you back to health. So congratulations to Providence St. Joe's Medical Center.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. Saturday, a couple days ago, myBurbank had the distinct pleasure and was invited to the Burbank Historical Society's 50th year anniversary celebration, where they had a great barbecue and many people there. They had a marionette show. They had
live music. They had a band out there.
And and the barbecue, the food was great. And we did a podcast from there, which you'll see in a couple days. We'll have on hopefully by Wednesday for you.
What are we calling that? myBurbank Talks is on the road again. Was that what it was?
Well, actually, it's called.
We weren't able to license the song from Willie Nelson.
Yes, I don't think Willie would give us the rights to it.
Okay.
But
no, it was a great day though. It was their annual member appreciation barbecue.
Yep.
And they had live music, like you said, the marionette show, some great food from Barragan's and
Handy Mart. And you know what? I talked to Don Baldessaroni today. He's one of our interviews on the podcast we did. Don told me that about 200 to 275 people, all the food by those restaurants was donated. And they picked up new members. And what was...
I'm a new member.
That's right,
I'm a new member.
What did we say? Every person that sat down, you'll hear the podcast that we did. What did they all say?
The best kept secret in town.
Well, you know what? That's what this podcast is going to fix.
Right.
Let's hope. We're going to do what we can to help them out.
Yeah, it was a great event. Like I say, the food, they had popsicles, they had cotton candy, popcorn.
And again, a lot of the people coming through there, because we talked to many people that were walking around, nobody knows it's there. Everybody sees the the Starfighter,
the house,
the jet, and the little blue house, but they think that's it.
We'll drive around the back next time.
Yeah.
And they're open every day. Or I'm sorry, every weekend.
Every weekend, yeah.
Saturday and Sunday, from 1 to 4. If you want to take, a tour. They have Dawsons that walk you around. They have
not the little dogs with short legs.
Explain
Docents.
what Dawson is, because
Docent.
Yes,
exactly. Usually a volunteer tour guide with expertise in the area.
Craig, you went by, and was Johnny Carson there, or just parts of him?
One of his suits was there, and one of the chairs from his studio audience was there, and I loved it. There's 2 stories. I don't know what the building even looks like from the outside, because you don't even notice it's there until you're inside. But you walk inside, and just the garage with all the old cars and the old fire engine. But it's cavernous. There are rooms after rooms after rooms.
It's 2 stories too.
There's a second story to it that you'd never know.
And they have a meeting hall. If you want to do an event there, they'll be glad to hold your event there for. I mean, it's one of those places. Years ago, I went back to Washington D.C. and one of my goals was to go to the Smithsonian, because that's the place where all of American history really is. And I did not know there's actually 3 different Smithsonian buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent literally 4 hours at the Space and Technology one. That was my first,
the Air and Space Museum.
Right.
You've got the National Archives, which is a great building. Fonzie's jacket is there, as well as Archie Bunker's chair. That's all in the National Archives, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the thing was, though, is that I didn't have 3 different days to go, so I only got to see the one.
A lot of walking.
And so, yeah, it was. So I will say, if you're going to go to the Burbank Historical Society, plan on an afternoon. It's not a 20-minute walk through it and that's you see. I mean, you'd probably spend 2-3 hours in there looking at all the different displays and kind of marveling at things and saying, oh, yeah, I remember that.
Because it's not just Burbank-specific stuff. A lot has been created in this city over the decades. So there are displays
Wasn't
from
there an airplane company here?
Lockheed. There's a lot of Lockheed memorabilia there, Lockheed history, The Tonight Show, Johnny Carson.
Media capital of the world is
Absolutely.
here now?
Absolutely, yeah, and there are interactive displays too. So you're not just looking at things, reading plaques. You can pick up a handset. There'll be a vignette in front of you, some scene, and you pick up a handset, and it explains what's going on,
Well, to follow up
happening in
on
the
our
vignette.
podcast that we're doing today, we did a podcast there. We interviewed quite a few of the board members there. But what will be added to that, we shot some video of quite a few of the displays.
You'll see some of the video that we shot there during the podcast on YouTube. If you're
especially the things we spoke about that
Yes.
came
Yeah,
during
exactly.
the podcast.
But it's very interesting that people don't realize, let's say you move here, you find our podcast, you have no clue. You drive around town and you see these signs that say, historical museum, and you're scratching your head, where? And you drive by that house and you think, well, that's all there is.
Right.
That's all there.
and the
I
address,
didn't even go in the house. I spent the entire day there, and I never got into the house.
the address is Lomita Street, but that's really just a small door. If you actually go around to the back and park in the Little Theater and Betsy Lukey Art Center,
The best parking is
Parking
off
lot.
of Clark.
yeah, you get
1100
off of
West
Clark. You can actually get through the back doors, which are it's a main entrance really, and you have a ton of parking there too. So you don't have to worry about trying to find a parking place
And
on the
folks,
street.
For $20, you can become a member of the
And,
Burbank Historical Society.
and you
That
get
$20
invited to the member appreciation barbecue.
That's right. And that $20, nobody gets paid.
Not one volunteer gets paid. There's no board of directors that takes a salad. Nothing. Every dollar goes back into the center. And in fact, I'm sure every dollar that's donated, they put 5 hours of time in for every $1
Oh, yeah.
that goes in. And those people build displays. They maintain the displays.
Very
They-
interesting.
They put a lot of it together themselves, and it is not a fly-by-night operation. It's
And those are members of
quality work.
Members of the community who've actually lived here most of their entire lives. So
Yep.
they're not just coming in and all of a sudden, they understand Burbank history.
And appreciate it. There's a lot of love in those displays, but definitely
Well,
worth
I got to mention, if it wasn't for Mary Jane Strickland and her husband, Harry, Mary Jane was a PIO with the city.
Being a public information officer.
Correct. And Harry was a police officer with Burbank. They were the ones that collected and started the Burbank Historical Society. So I just wanted to mention their names. They both have passed away. There's rooms dedicated to them. Just their history and story alone is very interesting. So,
And they did say too that they basically run out of space. They need
Yes, they're out
they
of
need
space.
more room for all the displays that they have.
It would be nice that if they do renovate Isaiah Park, that they actually take into consideration maybe giving them a little more room to work with when they, take out the theater and all those things they're going to do to redo the park.
Yeah,
Maybe they can actually help them, because, history every day is a new day.
there's more history.
More history than
Yeah, we're creating history
well,
as we go.
that's one of the lines that I always say. Yesterday is a mystery. No, yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. You got today, which is the present. So
I like presents,
exactly. That's why you wake up and you're grateful you're awake.
especially me.
Well, don't we have a quick commercial break that I hear that we're going to go into?
Absolutely. We'll be right back.
How would you like your business advertised in this very spot? myBurbank Talks is looking for businesses interested in a 30-second spot to appear in our podcasts. If you're interested, please email advertising@myburbank.com, and we'll be glad to discuss all of the exciting opportunities with you. Now, back to our podcast.
And we're back. And today was Monday, and now we can talk about Chris Taylor who went yard.
Does that mean we're going to talk
Right.
about the week that will be?
A week that will be.
Monday, the 17th of July, 2023.
And that we are not looking at last week's watch. We're
No.
looking.
Well, today there was a And I go through these meetings and I look at them and I say, why are all these meetings on the same day at the same time? Why can't they spread them out a little more during the week or something? But anyhow, today, what's my favorite commission, Ross?
Sustainable Burbank Commission.
I love those guys. They're always trying to. They've always got something important to do. They're always advising the council. They're always sending reports, to the council. They may help them make decisions, and the council does listen to them. So their meeting was today, and they talked about the report on single-use plastic ban. Now, we've talked about that in the past, and that's a huge issue with many sides to it. And I think that a lot needs to be worked out in a lot of different areas before that becomes an ordinance in Burbank. But it's
I
something
just
that
came
they're
from an
working on.
event at Tequila's before I came here. Some of them might see my taco and enchilada that was on my all over my shirt. But I'm told Friday, not the Sustainable Burbank Recycle Center and the restaurant owners are getting together at Tequila's, I guess, early in the morning before stores open. They're bringing all their plastics. We will be supplied a picture from that event. And you know what? These restaurant owners want to hear from the city, and they are literally going to take what containers they can use and what they can't. And it's going to be, like I said, if you're a restaurant owner, get a hold of the Chamber of Commerce, get a hold of either Paquito Moss or Betty Porto. Those are some of the big restaurants that are going to be there. But they're going to meet
Friday morning Tequilas. Do you know what time it is?
I believe 9 o'clock, 8:30 or 9, and that's because store owners
Right. Okay.
want to be able. But get a hold
if you
of
have a
this.
restaurant, you need to get involved in this because they are going to make a decision one way or another. So you need to get involved. I just hope
Something is being done.
But like I
on the
say,
restaurant.
they still got to worry about food trucks and what their things are and everything. It's a huge subject. I understand the importance of it, but let's see how they work it out. We'll stay on it for you.
I'm worried that no food trucks will come back into the city because for one city, they're not going to go and spend all that money in investment to change over.
Well, but
all their
in the
straws,
long run, they're
forks,
going to have
plates.
to because all the cities, it's a state mandate.
So statewide.
Yeah, state mandate that they have to do it. So each city, and so if a food truck, and they're now talking right now, food trucks won't be there Friday probably, but Burbank has 398 restaurants. Would you ever think of that or know that?
So if it's a state
There's 25
mandate,
on Riverside and Pass alone, I think.
what's the city's role in the whole thing if it's a state mandate then?
To enforce it.
To enforce it.
To enforce it.
And have their set of, their ordinance and how it's going to be enforced and all that and the fines and that type of thing.
So they got a lot of work to do, but like I said, on the QT, I did hear that they were meeting on Friday. So the restaurant owners are trying to learn and get this figured out.
Now here's the funny thing. One of the things that they're talking about on the agenda for Sustainable Burbank Commission is can they hold their meetings past 7? Their meetings start at 5, and can they go past 7 o'clock? They work on so many items, and they're being limited to 2 hours. I can't understand that. You think that they go in there to meet, and let's meet until we get it done for that day.
How many city council meetings go till 1 in the morning?
Yeah,
2 in the
and
morning.
at 11 o'clock they're supposed to get an agenda item that they put out and say a vote and say, can we go past 11? I mean,
Well, I think the custodian needs to come in and sweep that room.
yeah, well, that's the thing that cracks me up. Now the Transportation Commission once again met at the same exact time in the same exact building. So if you had two different issues for two different commissions, you had to pick. You could not go to both of them. So they had a meeting today also, and they're getting information on the final designs to change San Fernando Boulevard to one-way northbound street between Olive and Magnolia. Instead of going both ways, they're just going to go one way only. Try that out and decide then if they want to continue to do that, go back to two-way traffic, or, which I hope they don't do, make it a golden mall again, which no traffic, no cars allowed.
I like that. I like that one. So if they close down one lane of traffic, are they also closing down that side of parking spaces?
Yes.
So people are making.
I believe they're going to
illegal
make
U-turns?
those parklets.
Right. And you go, I think it's one lane right in the middle. You can park on both sides, go in the same direction,
Yeah, everything going northbound from Olive to
Okay.
Magnolia.
Because otherwise, everybody's making illegal
Right.
U-turns to
Which
park
they,
in the.
which they are right now anyway.
No, they're going to turn that around. But I know they're going to want to talk to the merchants after, it's going to be a trial. But do they turn things around? Yeah, in 3-4 years.
I've always thought there aren't enough parking spaces there, and it's all the congestion that's always there. People waiting to get in a spot, things like that. There's not enough parking on that street to make it worthwhile.
Well, that's people who remember the Golden Mall, what a disaster that was, and how it became a ghost town, and all the businesses moved out because back then, but they had no parking structures back then. It was just find a place to park somewhere and then walk down there to a small mom and pop store, and people just weren't doing it.
Yeah, well, with the parking structures there now, I never even try to park on San Fernando.
Just don't take the elevator.
That's what I've heard. You know where I've heard it? On this very podcast.
Yeah. Stay away from that elevator near Islands.
I hear all the city elevators.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or at least the ones in the parking structures.
One of the things that they need to work out before they put that northbound plan in is you got food delivery. These, back in the day, we didn't have all these different food.
Yeah, you get on these semi trucks pulling up to one of those restaurants.
Well, not only semi trucks, but people that are picking up meals to take to places.
Yeah.
They can't run 3 blocks, with your hot food and so
but
forth.
But they will.
Oh, they
Now,
will.
There are a lot of municipalities that put certain, with the exception of 5 to 8 a.m. for deliveries only, they give access.
Well, there's a lot of people don't realize that there's residents at Palm and San Fernando Boulevard up above. There's
True.
condominiums. Yep. Well, you don't want a semi truck unloading at 4 a.m. So they make restrictions on their delivery times, and you got to take that all.
There's a lot going on with that whole thing. It's like the plastics thing. There's a lot more to it than just saying, well, we're going to do
anything simple in this town.
It's talking about simple. Okay, Craig, why is in the city of Burbank, San Fernando Boulevard, a boulevard and not a road like it is everywhere else?
So we can tell if you're really a Burbank person or not, and you say boulevard and not road.
And why can you be going northbound Sepulveda and northbound Buena Vista at the same time?
Now that one I'm scratching my head.
Well, you can drive down Victory and it goes in 4 different directions: east, west, north, and south.
You went that away.
Now Monday also. Now at 6 p.m., an hour later, but still Monday in the same building once again. We're going to have the Art and Public Places committee. They're in room 101. They're going to get a report on the Verdugo Aquatic Facility Public Art and the Burbank Channel Bikeway Public Art. So that's what they're going to get. And I also get a report on the Johnny Carson Park shade structure that they're trying to put in for that. So that's what they're working on today for artsy types of.
So it seems like more based on the location, sounds more like outside art, like structural tattoos and things, large scale stuff.
Yeah, I think it could be maybe paintings too, or murals. I really don't know. And
well, I believe on the shade structure, for your benefit, when you do Care Walk and some of these other things you DJ at, there will finally be a cover over the stage, but you just can't put up, some bamboo and lean-tos.
I have.
Yeah, you have. But they're going to need to, they need to make it artsy now, and that's what they're going to do.
Because on that stage, if you're going to be there for any length of time, there is zero shade on that stage. There's one little tree next to the stage that everybody hides under, but the stage is completely exposed.
We have been set up there.
Tomorrow the city council is going to meet at 6 p.m.
Oy vey.
They have to finish by 7?
Exactly. But the thing, I didn't actually put this on our rundown, but it came across my mind. And I'm going to throw it out there just for the heck of throwing things out. When we went through the pandemic, one of the things that the county did was stop people from getting evicted from their houses because, they couldn't earn money. There was no way to earn money. We're now in a writers and an actors strike, and not only affecting those two unions, of course, but affecting many, many other people in the city. And I would like to see Burbank come up with some kind of an ordinance that while the strikes are going on, that they cannot evict to studio people. Now, I don't know how you're going to, maybe you have to show that 75% of their check is through studio, work. But I think that, if this strike goes on 6 months, you're going to have a lot of people in hardship. And we're a media town with full of media people. And I think we need to do something to help our residents. And we did it during the pandemic, which was great. But what about now? When people are on strike, and you know what? They don't have a choice in strike. It's like I choose to go on strike this. No. If they're unions, they're on strike. And if they're working in a business, maybe a restaurant or a catering or a prop house or something, well, you know what? Their revenues went down by 75% at least.
Right. Yeah, I won't deny it's a widespread hardship, something like this, but a pandemic versus a labor dispute, I don't think you'd be able to justify that. But I understand
statewide. I'm talking about our city, because our city is what we call ourselves the media capital of the world.
So where's the money coming from?
Where's what money coming from?
What solution are you?
Well, it's the same. It's the same as the county imposed during the pandemic. Is that you can't be evicted, but you're still going to owe the money. You're not going to get.
Those were federal funds. They were supplied to pay people. You're not going to get federal funds.
Well, maybe not federal funds, but at least you can't.
And what if somebody in the union owns an apartment building?
Oh, then
they're not getting the rent money in.
I understand. Yeah. I understand.
Again,
that.
Another nuanced.
Exactly.
Issue, yeah.
But I'm just worried about people who are, month-to-month people type thing, and all of a sudden now you're talking about, homeless and everything else. Well, you're going to have...
Here's a good example. I just came from our good friends over at Tequila's from another event, and she went online this week feeling for the writers and the other union that... the
actors.
Actors, and she offered a discount. You show your union card. People came on and bashed her. Well, my husband doesn't work for those unions, but the business that he works for, there's no help. I want a discount too. It's hard. It's kind of like,
Well, I will say one thing. If you are out of work because of the strike and you're not in one of those two unions, you can collect unemployment. If you're in one of those two unions, you cannot collect unemployment.
Correct.
But if you're not in those two unions, you can collect unemployment. So there are ways to have money come in, but
not easy. Not an easy situation, especially for a media town. But
that's our lifeblood here. Is it studios and everything else, and it's they're talking another at least 6 months maybe.
Ouch.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Anyhow, that was just my my little thing I just came up with. On the consent agenda. There's interesting. There's a well, first we'll talk about the city's going to receive $584,000 from the county for senior meals at McCambridge. And my question, that's great. I mean, we need to provide those meals. I'm glad they have a kitchen in McCambridge. I'm glad they deliver. They do a great job. The program is fantastic, but where are they spending that $584,000? Are they using it through? Are there Burbank merchants that are part of that? I mean, I think, buy Burbank. I think we should always have buy Burbank in the back of our minds, especially when you're talking about city spending. So I understand you have to put out contracts and bids and everything else, but there should be some kind of a consideration toward Burbank businesses when you're talking about, expenditures like that, for either produce or whatever it might be. So I'm just throwing that out there that I'd like to see, Burbank businesses favored.
Well, I do know that many years ago when they offered food, they used to offer eggs, cheese, milk, the necessities.
I think that was from the county, though.
Right. Well, this $584,000, I believe, is coming from the county.
Yeah, the money's coming from the county. And being given to Burbank.
But you're asked what you're stating is,
and they're cooking it in Burbank. They're the kitchen's in Burbank that prepares the food. So
right.
They've got to buy the food somewhere. They're getting the $584,000 to buy the food so they can prepare it.
Well, we don't know if they're buying it from Burbank suppliers.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm throwing out there. It'd be nice to know if they are, or hopefully it'd be a priority to have that if they are. Maybe
it'd be nice to see if they were able to source as much of this stuff from the businesses in the city
it within the city.
Yeah, sure.
There's two big things going on. Number one is the biggie, of course, for in 2023 for Burbank, and they're going to be having a public hearing And the way they say it is public hearing regarding draft maps for a city's transition to district-based city council elections. So basically, they can either pick a map or schedule another public hearing. So they're going to talk about the maps and that. But what's also interesting is the phase 2, which council and the public could consider alternative proposals that might involve charter amendments, such as increasing the number of council members from 5 to 7, a directly elected mayor rather than rotating a mayorship among city council members, any proposed amendment to the city charter to allow for alternatives to an electoral system with 5 council members elected by district must be placed on the March 2024 ballot to allow implementation in a council election in November of 2024, and they must have that by December 8th to the county to get it onto the March ballot. So basically what they're saying is if they are going to, and once again, I'm going to say this, they have not decided they're going to do this. Everything I keep reading on the city website said they are transitioning to. No, they're looking at, they're putting everything in place to look at, but they have not made a final decision. Are they going to do this or are they not? Are they going to fight it? Are they going to just go with it? Are they going to change things or stay status quo? They have not made a decision yet, and that's part of what this process is. But what you read on the city website makes it sound like it's a foregone conclusion, which is not. So it's a public hearing at the council, and I think you should go and make yourself heard or call in and make yourself heard about this, because this is it's a huge thing, and it can be a huge expense and change the way the city works. Like I said, they can go to a full-time mayor, pay him, $250,000 a year, and he's a full-time mayor and has powers that the mayor now does not have, and like the city of Los Angeles. Or they can stay with the same system, but have council members who have to live in districts. There's a lot going on with this, and people, from what I understand so far, have not really been interested. We have not seen a lot of interest in the community about this, which boggles the mind. So I think, you need to be informed. We're informing you as we can, but there's also responsibility to each individual person to look into this, because this will affect you. This will affect every single person in the city of Burbank. So that's kind of my rant on that. But I think we need to really watch the process, and I'd like to see what the council is going to do about it. I really don't know which way they're leaning.
I think you want the council to introduce Mr. Nick Gutierrez.
Yes, Mr. Nick Gutierrez. Who is Nick Gutierrez?
Mystery man.
We can't find.
Don't we have a sound for that?
A sound for Mystery Man?
Is it Mission Impossible or is it?
I'll give you a sound for him.
Well, we thought we would.
Well, that wasn't much of a sound, was it? But that's I'll give you a sound. There you go. Our sounds are a little weak today, aren't they?
Oh, well.
Oh, well.
For an issue that could certainly affect everybody that lives in this city, it may not even have been initiated by someone who lives in this city.
Yeah, I mean,
this is mystery person.
It's some law firm who, picked a name, pick a name, any name, and we can't find this guy. We don't know if he's on the voter rolls. He's not being represented. But what does he ever try to do to be represented? It really. I think it's just a law firm shaking down cities to make money, because I saw that they want $30,000 to not sue the city. So, I mean, it's a shakedown. It's a shakedown that
part certainly sounds like a shakedown.
It has repercussions.
Well, you don't have to do anything about it, but you have to cut us a check if you're not.
And here's the thing is that, because of the Hispanic representation, well, you know what? We've had Hispanics on the council. We have one now. It's not like we don't have Hispanic representation. And where in the city is there just one area of Hispanic voters? They're everywhere in the city. The city has a large percent of Hispanics all throughout the city. You can't create a district that just has Hispanic voters. I think our city is already, has a good mix of everybody in every part of the city. So I think this whole thing, it's a can of worms, and it's going to wind up costing us money. It's going to wind up costing the city.
They've already dumped
$250,000
$250,000 into it.
But the whole thing's going to cost us even more money, and it's also going to create havoc, I think. So,
But now it's a call to action for residents of Burbank to have their voices heard in this.
yeah, because it's coming down. It's coming.
It's going to affect everybody.
Because by December 8th, they have to decide they're going to do this or not, and get it on that March 2024 ballot. And and here's the thing: if they put it on the ballot and have a charter amendment to change things, and it's voted down, we're not going to do it because the charter, only the citizens can vote on charter amendments. The city council cannot change the charter. So that's a whole can of worms, and nobody's even talking about that yet. What happens if it's on the ballot and we say no? That's
well, and from your comments introducing this story, it sounds like all the publicity out there and city websites are leading people to believe it's already a done deal.
Yes, that's the
so
problem.
People are going to be out there going, "Why should I bother if it's already done?" But it's important to note that it is not done.
Another big thing. It's not a big thing because it's really, I think, the second reading on this. But they're in adoption of they're going to extend the emergency ordinance on the moratorium on newer replacement firearm retailers, and as they continue to do their due diligence to come up with rules and regulations for gun shops and all that. So
they're doing their homework.
They just need more time. That's what they're asking for.
This is not an ordinance that you can decide on.
Oh,
and we've heard at previous council meetings, they have every city department head or department involved. They've had a city attorney assigned to this. They're working on it, but it takes time, and that's why this is again just asking for another extension. So it's getting worked on. I think also at tomorrow night's city council meeting, they're going to be filling
boards
vacancies.
And commissions. Now, Ross, I think you are kind of the expert on it because I think you've read.
There's a sound effect for that one.
Yeah, you've read every board and commission that there is, and you found some interesting applications, or I should say, applications or resumes and something.
Well,
so
I will say, at night when I can't sleep, when my Flomax takes effect or my whatever pills I take,
when you're flummoxed.
Yeah, that's it. I read the agenda, and part of the agenda is each application for each board and commission. And some of these applicants have 10 and 20 page, dossiers that they are turning in. And for a couple of these commissions, wow. I mean, it takes, and I ask a couple of council members, how do you decide? And I got their opinions, but if you are wondering who sits on your boards and commissions, go on the city website, go to tomorrow night's agenda, go down to boards and commissions. They're filling a lot of spots, and read, they redacted their addresses and so forth. But if you want to know what some of those applicants have done since they're 3 years old, you can find out by looking at those apps.
Well, let me throw this at you guys. What you think? Sometimes these board members have served for a long time. Do you think there should be term limits on boards and commissions? If there are 2 terms on a board, then not saying you couldn't serve anymore, but you have to go serve on a different board or something. I just think maybe sometimes you need to get new blood, and maybe sometimes the people are dissuaded from trying to apply because, this guy always gets put on the board, because it's not an election; it's the council members who decide. But if there was a term limit on the boards, what do you think about that?
If they did term limits on council members, I'd agree on commissions. Let's start from the top. I don't think anybody sitting on a city council for 20 years, 15 years, 12 years, I know those seats well, and I honestly think, again, on a commission, a couple of years, but I get their point. You sit on it, you work on stuff. It takes a couple of years, especially in city government. It takes a couple of years for stuff to work and get done. you might have to change that. But yeah, I think
And it might be different from commission to commission too, based on the responsibilities and how much they actually do.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I'm never opposed to term limits on pretty much anything.
Well, speaking about how much they really do, on Wednesday.
Well, I set you up for that one,
you
didn't
set
I?
me up. On Wednesday, we have one of our boards. The police commission is going to meet at 6 p.m. at City Hall, and talk about a board that doesn't seem to ever advise anything. They're going to get a presentation like they always do. This presentation, discussion, and action. It says, if any, on police enforcement of bicycle and e-bike regulations
Well,
for the California Vehicle Code and the Burbank Municipal Code.
okay, now this one I will say that they could have some say in. E-bikes, a lot of people don't, you see them cruising down
By the way,
road.
I agree 100% with you. I mean, I agree that the presentation is great, and it had a presentation, and it's needed, but it's what they're going to do with the presentation that it bothers me.
That's what I was going to say. For example, they want a presentation on e-bikes. Okay, did you know there are different class e-bikes?
No, I did not.
The Chandler Bikeway, you can't use some of the e-bikes on the Chandler Bike Path because the required speed. That's what they are going to learn tomorrow.
Do we
One
have,
of-
do we
one
have
of-
those signs posted on the bike path?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Fantastic.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, I really did not know that. So that's something we should actually look into ourselves.
One of our commissioners got an e-bike, and it's one of the higher class e-bikes. He's a bigger guy, and he's got top of the line. It goes 28 to 30 miles an hour. The Chandler Bike Path is not made for
Absolutely.
a motorized.
but
bike.
now, but
Well,
could
and in
he-
this last week, I've seen people go buzzing down the middle of Olive on these things
Well, let me
where
ask
they
you-
should not be.
could he use the e-bike that goes 20 miles an hour? But is there like a speed limit? He couldn't go over 10 miles an hour, but with that bike?
Well, but
Is
if
that
you notice,
permitted?
they also want to talk about, if you read the staff report, it said e-bikes on sidewalks. We got to define, folks, when people buy these e-bikes and they go zipping down your sidewalk at 28 miles an hour, you're going, what the heck was that just went by?
Let me say this about that.
Oh, you have a little
I have a little experience in
That's
the
why-
traffic area.
That's why you wear a helmet, right?
Well, I don't need one anymore because this is like a rock. But between the e-bikes, the motorized scooters, these rental scooters that you see, you're tripping all over on the sidewalks,
Which you can't use in Burbank.
but they're all over the place.
Yes.
You see them laying all over the sidewalks, right? But you go to your local e-bike or electric scooter store, they're happy to sell it to you, right? And when the little razors, motorized scooters used to come out, we'd have people crashing all the time because what the stores don't do is tell you all the rules. The motorized scooter, there's a page and a half, 2 pages of the California Vehicle Code specifically addressing laws as they pertain to motorized scooters and e-bikes and motor-driven cycles and all this stuff. They're all different names.
Let me just interface here. You happen to know this because you used to, as you said in your prior, profession.
Yeah.
You went to a lot of school to learn.
Went to a lot of crashes.
Well, and that's, if you talk to people at St. Joe's, people are coming in
Sure.
with frappéd melons,
Right.
broken arms and so forth.
Because to rent one of these the rental scooters or anything, nothing on it says that you can't ride it on a street where the speed limit's over 25 miles an hour unless you're in a designated bike lane.
Plus,
There's
no
nothing
training.
that says that if you want to take a left turn on a road, you have to dismount the scooter and walk it across the crosswalk.
Oh, we're going to get calls about that.
Right?
now.
Yeah.
Look in the vehicle code, 21212, that area
Oh,
around
boy.
there talks about bicycle helmets, motorized scooters, and all that. But we used to go to all these crashes, and nobody knew anything about the laws related to these things. And typically, the roadway is covered by the California Vehicle Code, state law. Sidewalks are usually regulated by municipal code, the local municipality. So if they want a law that says motorized scooters, electric bicycles, motor-driven cycles can't be ridden on city sidewalks, that's probably going to be a municipal code. That's typically not covered in the vehicle code, unless
Now,
it's
that's
changed in the
where I
last
think
year or
our
two.
Police commission can have say in, because they can write recommendations to the city council.
Right.
and they're going to get that information from the report from the probably the traffic lieutenant.
Burbank already has a rule against rental scooters in Burbank, and the companies have their GPSs on them. And when you ride into Burbank, it dies. It won't go on the streets in Burbank.
That's why they're laying all over the streets
right.
in the neighborhood here.
On the border streets, because you can't drive in the city. But so if they can, regulate that, I'm sure they can regulate e-bikes too. And I think that it's something. The worst thing is this. Great, have the presentation, but do something about it. Do something about the presentation.
Like a letter to the city.
Come with a letter to the council and saying, we recommend that the council looks at this and adopts some policies regarding e-bikes and how they're used or something. I think take some action. That's all I'm saying. Don't just get a report. Take some action on the report.
To our followers, to our listeners, if you own an e-bike, I would listen to tomorrow night's police commission and find out.
Get educated.
They might be restricting your use of your e-bike and so forth, or did you know?
At the very least, you might learn a little something about.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't.
About the bike
it's against the
paths
law
and
for me to do that.
Sidewalks, absolutely.
Well,
Okay.
they also are going to discuss the racial identity profiling advisory.
They're known as RIPCA.
Right, RIPA.
Now, it's not Kelly Ripa, but it's RIPA.
And then they also are going to talk about, at their last meeting, they had a discussion about when they do presentations at their meeting, it takes time of officers.
Absolutely, and that's what we've said. And we don't mind. We don't mind the presentations. We get on them about presentations. We don't mind the presentation.
It's what they do with that information.
It's what they say. Oh, okay, thank you. We're going to note and file that. Well, you know what? For the 50 people who watch the meeting, great. But that take action. Report to the council and say, hey, we had a discussion on this, and here's what we think. I mean, that's what I say about these. The president, because like you said, it takes a lot of city staff.
Well, that's what
it takes police department staff to prepare them, to deliver them. And they take it seriously. They take it seriously. So.
We may have just covered the pet peeve of the week, but I know you have one for later. So you still have your opportunity later.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I get my pet peeves right in the middle of this day.
Before we move off of Wednesday, we have a ribbon cutting, new business in town.
Who's opening up?
Petrosian Pharmacy at 2701 West Alameda, the Burbank Chamber of Commerce, at 4 or 5 o'clock.
That's in one of the medical buildings.
It is in the first floor of the medical building, 2700 building. I was there a couple weeks ago for a blood test, and I know she's a member of Burbank Rotary.
Did you pass?
I passed my blood test,
okay,
and I
good.
passed this pharmacy. So if you want to go by and check out a new pharmacy, like I said, 2701 West Alameda, across from good old St. Joe's, Petrosian Pharmacy.
There you go.
Welcome to the city.
Thursday, our school board's going to meet at 7 p.m. at City Hall. One of the things on their agenda is they're ripping up some contracts to current administrators and giving them new contracts with new money.
Before the contracts are up.
Before the contracts are up. So I'm not going to get into the entire thing, but I just know that more assistant administrators are now getting more raises. So
we'll just leave it there, I guess.
But the thing that really caught my eye is they want to now restrict the pay that coaches make during the off season.
You have any experience in coaching?
Oh, do I have some experience in coaching, especially with Burbank. But, they only pay a head coach. Think about this. They pay a head varsity coach in Burbank $4,236 over a 3-month period.
That's way too much.
To coach their sport. Now, these coaches, let me tell you one thing, these coaches are going a lot more than 3 months. Now, they've also got assistant coaches who make $3,816. But here's a rub. If you're a head varsity football coach, you get an extra $500, so $4,703. But this is what really irritates me. An assistant football coach, a freshman football coach, makes the same amount of money that a head varsity coach makes in other sports. And let me tell you what, responsibility that a head varsity coach has, fundraising, running a program, dealing with all the things that go on. It's not much money. It really isn't. And they're not paying. You know what? In public schools, I get it. Now, coaches make, football coaches in the private schools are making $100,000 a year.
Holy shamoly.
And so are the basketball coaches.
Holy
And I know some of the baseball coaches making $50,000, $75,000 a year. But that's private schools, and I get it. Okay, they can afford to do that. And if you take a public school job, you're not expecting to get rich, but you can run camps in the summertime, and it helps pay your staff. It helps give them more money, and you can make some more money. And the school board's now saying no head coach can now make more in the summer than his stipend. So now they're going to restrict, they're going to give raises to administrators. But if you're a coach and you work hard and you're going to go out there all summer in the heat and run a camp and run things like that, well, you're going to be capped at how much money you can make. Oh, you can use that money to pay other coaches, but they're going to get capped. You can raise money for your program. But so you're going to go out there on your own time and raise money for a program because the district won't give you money to run your program. I mean, it's really, this is ridiculous. This to me is just a slap in the face to every coach saying, we do not appreciate you as it is because we don't pay you much. And now we're going to limit how much you can make in the summertime. And I'm sorry. I tell you coaches, don't use a school facility. Go out and run a private camp. Rent a facility somewhere. And run your camp the way you want to run it, and charge what you want to charge, and do what you can do. But for them not to make money, be allowed to make the money they need to make. And
is it just when they're using the city facility? So you're saying they can't go elsewhere?
If they're using their, if they're using their school facility they're using,
right.
which by the way, they got to still pay for in the summertime. They don't get it for free. But when you're a coach, you don't just work those 3 months during the school year. Now, as an example, in baseball, we wouldn't start getting paid until March, but yet the semester starts in January. So for the first 2 months, we would have to go to school and work and coach and not get paid. In fact, I was told by an administrator who's now left the district that if I didn't go and show up every day at 2:00 into a classroom with my players when I'm not being paid and my season has not started yet, he was going to find another coach and I would be fired if I didn't go work for free. So they're forcing you to do that kind of stuff. And yet now in the summertime, when you have a chance to make some money and kind of make up for all that, they're saying, you only get the amount of your stipend. I'm sorry. That's a slap in the face to every coach in this city. You know what? It's by people who have no experience in coaching whatsoever. So it's kind of a rant. I'm sorry, but it's very close to my heart. I've been a high school coach for 40 years. I've coached 25 years in the private schools. I took a lot less money to go to boroughs.
It almost, and you have the background in this, I don't, but putting a cap on what they can make during the summer almost seems like they're rubbing salt in the wound. Like it almost seems like a very passive-aggressive way to eliminate sports altogether. Because you make it.
I have heard
so the coaches can't afford to be around anymore, and there's no.
I've heard they want to make sports into club sports, and they don't want to do high school sports anymore. Now in Burbank, in all honesty, Burbank High, they had a great athletic director who just left. He's not going to be the athletic director anymore. He brought in wrestling. And they had a great wrestling year, first year program. They made some kids made state. It was a great experience. But yet you've got sports, lacrosse and wrestling and gymnastics. And now you have girls flag football that the CIF, which is the California Interscholastic Federation, has now okayed. And many, many schools are now doing. But in Burbank and boroughs, nothing new. Nothing new whatsoever. And it's like they just don't want to do anything more than they have to do. And it's sad. Athletics, we could do a whole podcast on athletics and what it does for a person about teamwork, responsibility. We're not all going to become math majors, and some are, an athlete sometimes.
Well, so many lessons are learned in school sports.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
Teamwork.
Lifelong skills.
And you know what? So many years that I've coached, the kids on those teams become lifelong friends.
Sure.
Lifelong friends. You know, if you didn't play sports, you kind of went to, you might have college friends, your lifelong friends. But in high school sports, the guys you went to battle with every day, and you spent 3 hours a day on a practice field for a couple years, they're lifelong friends. And
It's a shared experience that they go through and lifelong lessons learned. Now, this kind of behavior you're seeing, where they're not really supporting school athletics at the moment, is this the responsibility of the school board, the superintendent?
well, yeah. I mean, well, it's funding, it's budgeting. I mean, in baseball, all they would pay for are umpires for your league games, and they would pay, I think it was about half the price of buses. That was it. If you wanted baseballs, you wanted bats, you wanted bases, you bought it yourself. If you wanted, other coaches, you had to pay other coaches. If you wanted your buses, you had to raise money for at least half the bus. There's no money for uniforms. That's your responsibility. That's not the school pays for nothing except for umpires and coaching stipends. That's all they pay for. Nothing else. It's up to the head coach to go out and raise that money. The same head coach who's making the same amount as an assistant football coach, who just shows up every day to practice. I shouldn't say just shows up, but responsibilities are a lot different for a lower level coach compared to a head varsity coach. But they're making the same amount of money. It's a disgrace. It's an embarrassment, and it's an insult. So enough of that rant. Let's move on to Friday. Sure can't be worse than Thursday.
Hasn't happened yet.
Well, hey, now here, this one here kind of throws me off a little bit. The Buena Vista Library is going to have it says, get ready to dance to Bram. I don't know if I'm saying this right. Bram Brada. It's a steel drum band made up of high school seniors. Is that how you say it?
Well, there's an accent over this.
Yeah, there's an accent there. I'm not sure. I'm not good at my accents. But it's going to be the Buena Vista Library from 10 to 11 a.m. So they're going to have a steel drum band playing very loudly, I think, at Buena Vista Library.
So if you live anywhere near Buena Vista Library, if you're not up by 10,
you will be. You will be. But I think that those are very talented kids, and they have a great sound on those drums, when they do them.
Yeah.
But I'm just surprised they're doing it so early in the morning. I think it's more of an afternoon.
The librarian will be running around shh the whole time.
Well, we got to remember, we are in the summer, so they got to entertain these kids during the day.
Well, it's only 1 hour, though.
Well, that's why, because you play those drums for more than an hour, you do need help.
Well, that's kind of it for the week, but we do have a few notes of interest. We're going to, once again, just so you know that we are now working on a story on the trees on Niagara, where we've heard from residents that they've been told that the city is going to cut down a number of the pine trees.
I was just going to say, did we interview any trees? I'm usually told about stories we're working on.
No, but we're trying to get branch out to find some.
Yeah, we don't know which branch of the city they
we're
contact. They're stumped.
We will root.
Can I leave?
We will root them on, though.
Can I leave?
But we are working. Burbank. If you drive around, there's only one street that you see pine trees from one end to the other end.
That's Niagara.
And that's Niagara.
Pine Street? No.
Now, and they're having problems.
Yeah, we're going to find out, and we've asked the city, and they've explained to us why they have to do this. It's like on the trees, been tearing down cutting down the trees on Magnolia for a few years now because of the root problem, and replanting. They're not just cutting down trees and leaving them.
Good, they're replacing. They're replacing.
Burbank is a Tree City, USA, and they're proud of that designation. So, but I understand. When roots, break up sidewalks and streets and cause damage, and somebody's walking down the street and they trip over a sidewalk because of the root problem. Yeah, I get that. The city has to be a liability where they have to look at too.
We posed to the city some questions and we got answers, and there's quite a few that we were told, especially those pine trees, they've lived their life. Trees have a life, and they have passed, right like the trees along Magnolia, the ficus trees have lived their life of when they were planted.
So when I live my life, they're going to come over and cut me down.
Well, we're going to do the same with you.
Yeah, I'm ready for it.
So those trees along, these pine trees are now dropping branches and causing thousands of dollars worth of damage.
Well, back in February, one of those trees crashed into a house.
Yeah, and we got this. I've seen a couple of petitions online that people want to sign, and some of the things.
We get it. I mean, those trees are beautiful. And that street has character because of those trees. We get that. We understand that. But utopia is not going to be utopia forever. Unless, things do change. And there are life cycles to everything.
The root systems can grow to where they're causing structural problems, plumbing problems, water main issues.
Have you ever heard of a drought? We are in a drought condition. That is affecting our big trees in the city. We are in climate change. When they planted these trees 40, 50 years ago, they did not know what climate change was. They did not think California...
They didn't know because there was no climate change.
Well, there wasn't.
Yeah. We didn't have all those gases in the air.
People are wondering why. They do have reasons why they now have to replace. And this is not, we're just going to go out on Saturday and go chop, 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 chop. This is a 1.5-year process that they're going to do.
The city's concerned about this, but we're going to highlight and we're going to let you know what the city's position is, and we're going to talk to residents.
Follow myburbank.com, and
it'll be on our site soon.
Saturday is a quiet day.
That's why we're on notes of interest.
That's right.
We have another page.
Friday
food truck night in Magnolia Park.
Is
It's
that
returning.
It is?
According to this.
Yeah, show up for the pre-meetings once in a while.
Oops. Well, I was at an
It
event.
says right here that it's returning.
I was at an event, you know what? Hosted by Magnolia Park Merchants Association. And guess what they talked about?
They talked about the Food Truck Fridays.
You're right, Magnolia Park Food Truck Fridays. And the chairman was there. And I can report that they have, I think, about 15 trucks. They have a goal of hitting so much more. They had a commitment. When we put it out there, I sit on that board, Magnolia Park Merchants, and the chairman of that said, when he put it out there, he had 30 trucks say, we want to be there, but now you got to pay and get all your insurance. We're now down.
Burbank has a lot of rules and regulations.
Well, and no plastic forks.
Exactly.
Burbank, the city of rules and regulations.
But they're doing there's quite a few new merchants in Magnolia Park. It's one of the merchants came to the board and wanted to reignite and kind of
reestablish it, help the businesses out, get people on the boulevard, especially in the summertime. 7, 8, 9 o'clock on a Friday night. It's great weather. You can walk around. The shops that decide they want to be open and experience new customers. I mean, it's a great event.
There's a whole story behind how Ladies and Gents Night Out started. A group of the lady owners of quite a few of the stores. It was on MSNBC, how it all came together. These ladies couldn't pay their rent on the first of the month. So on the last Friday of the month, they got some food trucks together. And people started shopping in their businesses, and they could pay their rent on the first. Well, that had gone through a stage of many years. And
gone through an evolution.
Revolution, then Ashley.
Evolution, not revolution.
Evolution, I'm sorry. Revolution, evolution. How's your solution?
Junction.
Well, then Ashley Erickson took it over, and kind of again, there was how she ran it and so forth. Well, she retired from that position, and now we have a new business that wanted to get it going, and he's doing a lot of. He did the work on the artwork. There's new artwork.
Well, we'll talk about this more next week. That'll be more next week's show. We sort of throwing at people, just for their attention.
Oh, yeah.
For more information, visit magnoliapark.com.
That's right.
And the same with Holiday in the Park coming up on November 17th. Once again, you go to the website and find out about that if you're interested in doing a booth or something like that. So we just throwing it out there for you.
Visit magnoliapark.com.
The last
time is running out to get a vendor spot.
Visit magnoliapark.com.
One
more thing for your future calendars, and we'll talk more about it next week, is the city is going to hold a Zoom meeting.
Wait. There's a big event going on before that, dude. We have Captain DJ right in the room with us. Burbank Young
DJ.
Professionals
I'm a career tenderfoot. I'm not promoting.
I got a feeling that event is after this event.
Which one?
I'm talking about the Zoom meeting on July 26th.
I was going to Zoom the BYP event.
And what day is that? What date is that?
28th?
Oh, when's your Zoom meeting?
On the 26th.
Oh,
my calendar is just screwed up.
That's why we have meetings.
Should have come to rehearsal.
But this is something that we'll talk about a lot more next week. We're having a Zoom meeting to discuss SB 35 projects on July 26th for an hour and 15 minutes, from 6 to 7:15 p.m. I guess when they discuss them, I'm not sure they're going to discuss them if they're going to do this whole meeting in an hour and 15 minutes.
Wait. They're going to shove these projects down our throat.
Well, and here's three of the projects. At 2814 Empire Avenue, 148 units.
148 units, folks.
A project at 3000 Empire, 337 units.
337 units.
And a project across the street at 3001 Empire, 131 units.
Wait a minute, I'm trying to do the math and I can't get my shoes off fast enough.
Yeah.
But you know what? Right there alone, we got over 700 new residential. And you tell me where the hell they're going to park.
In a 3-block area.
Oy vey.
And so they're going to have a meeting and talk about the SB 35 process, the role of the city staff, and how they review the projects, and provide an overview of each project. I can't see how they're going to discuss this and have all that information in an hour and 15 minutes. So, you know what? Let's hope they take people's calls, because these are 3 major things. And guess what? We're screwed.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, at the end of the bill,
credits.
At the end of the bill, SB 30, Senate Bill 35, the very last sentence in it, and you're screwed. That's kind of what they're telling the cities.
The state of California is shoving this down our throat, or up our puss, as they would say in some language.
I mean, you take that bill and just right down the toilet.
That's right. You know what? Folks, think about this. Empire between Buena Vista and Hollywood Way, a couple of units. This does not even count the one with 107 units where the circus used to be, or the whatever.
Well, and this doesn't count the one in the Fry's parking lot, the Fry's where they're taking out Fry's.
But it's okay because there's a bus stop in front.
Oh, there's a bus stop. They have mass transportation now. There's a bus stop for a bus that runs once an hour, 4 days a week or something. So
folks, in a couple of years, when you're scratching your head and you go, who came up with all this BS? Just don't think that myBurbank Talks didn't mention it and give you.
We're just not talking. We're discussing, but it's becoming known as the Empire Projects area.
Empire Projects, the Empire.
Yeah. Literally the projects.
Well, going back to what it used to be, it sounds like. But
what scares me
the Enclave, wasn't it the Western Enclave at one point?
You know what scares me and all that? I say we'll discuss it more next week. But I got to throw this out there real fast. Is what you're going to have 700 people. I was once told by an officer, and I said, well, there's a lot of crime on Grismer. And he said, you know what? Too many people in too little of a place. Mm-hmm. Now, Grismer has 2-story buildings up and down the street, and a lot of them are lower income. But now you're going to put 700 units in a 3-block area. You talk about too many people in too small of a space.
With no parking.
Yes. We're going to need, you're going to have to increase officers and fire protection. There's all sorts of, there's more to it than just having a developer who's probably not a city resident and has nothing to do with Burbank come in and just destroy our city, our feel.
Wait, we're in California. Somebody told me once that why we have a car ad every 2 minutes on TV is we are the highest state.
We sell more cars than anybody else.
And you tell
especially
me
trucks.
All these places are not going to have parking.
Well,
Where the hell are they going to go?
I haven't seen the other 2 projects, but I know the one has 7 parking for 7 stories, 7 parking units, and by the way, 1 handicap spot. So, okay, we'll get into,
to be continued.
We'll get into that later. Ross, you got any pet peeves?
No, we got to talk about
the Burbank Young Professionals.
Are you
the Grill and Give event at Johnny Carson Park, Saturday, July 29th, from 1 to 5 p.m. Live music, a great DJ,
free food.
There's going to be food, bounce houses for the kids. A great event.
Got free food
now,
there.
I just want to BYP. People are going, What the heck? I'm scratching my head. BYP. BYP is Burbank Young Professionals. It's a group that works under the Burbank Chamber of Commerce for those young entrepreneurs and business people.
I think we should start another group, Burbank Old Professionals.
Oh, you qualify.
Well, that's what this room is.
Yeah, isn't it really?
But this is one of their major events. They are looking for sponsorship. They're giving out school packs, backpacks, everything kids need. They are looking for some sponsorship. Can we get the DJ's voice to promo it?
Probably.
Good, go ahead, hit it.
Oh, right now?
What would you say?
Welcome to my
I already
world.
said it.
Welcome to my world. It would be unprepared at times. That's why we have meetings.
Don't put me on the spot like that. There are strikes going on right now.
That's right. You can't, without a writer, you can't do a
Right.
promo.
Who wrote this? I want to know who wrote this.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but there will be free food, right?
Non-union hack. I used to go to the Paramount Grill on Charles Street in Boston. Where that came from.
Oh, really?
That's where it happened.
So if you have a kid, going to be a lot of good stuff going on there. Burbank Young Professionals. You can go online. I believe I saw they have a website, BYP.
We'll talk more about it next week.
Okay.
Let's not guess.
We'll talk more next week when it's
You know
actually
what?
going to
Just
happen.
for that, we're bringing in the chairman, the co-chairman, and the DJ to do a podcast.
Oh, that sounds like a great idea. But you know what it's time for? Ross's rant.
Ross's pet peeve.
Ross's
Wait,
rant.
Ross's rant. That's even a better one. Ross's rant.
Well, I continue.
Was that me or was that Ross?
No, I said I went to tequilas before I came here.
That's a burro. Sound of a burro.
My pet peeve of the week. I have been in this city a long time. I know you can't use Roundup anymore in public parks and in school districts and so forth.
Insecticide, insect killer.
Weed
weed
killer,
killer.
and so forth. But I'm
That's right,
sorry.
weed killer.
I'm driving around this town. Our weeds are higher than the light signals. Our weeds are on every corner, in not flower beds.
We're not talking weed shops.
No, we're talking weeds, and
But they are high.
it just does not. Many years ago, I remember they used to hire kids through, I believe it was called the CETA program or the Work and Force program. And for the summer, you'd go out and you'd paint light poles or stop signs or do stuff in the community. You tell me that they couldn't plan this when summer started, hire a dozen kids, teach them.
Well, didn't they have the dig program last week at Verdugo Park the other day?
But that's one park. This is, I'm talking every boulevard in
Absolutely.
this city. Ashley told me last week.
City-owned property and city-owned property.
Is that parks? Is that street department?
Well, it's. I would think.
Well, that's a good question. Maybe that's why nothing gets done because
Somebody's responsible for
somebody
it.
says, "Well, it's their problem." I mean, oh no, it's their problem. No, well, redevelopment says, "No, it's Park and Rec." Park and Rec says, "No, it's redevelop." Yeah, who knows? But there are
why
weeds
they
growing
couldn't
on
get
city
these
facilities.
kids-
It's on paper somewhere.
Why couldn't they get these kids, teach them how to use a weed whacker, or something whacking something, and go out and drive around, cut those weeds down, pick them up, and Burbank doesn't look like Burbank. It looks like Pacoima or the Sahara Desert lately, and it's just my pet peeve of the week.
I think step one is to figure out which department is supposed to handle that. It's usually either parks or...
And you know what? By next week, we will let you know. We will find out, and we will let you know
who to call.
Who are the weed whackers?
Who the weed whacker's supposed to be.
All right.
Whackers of weeds.
Well, I think that's it for...
if you have a pet peeve, you email us, and you tell us it's myBurbank Talks
at myburbank.com.
Is
myBurbank.com.
Ross's rant at Burbank, myBurbank.
You can send it to Ross's rant too, and we will get it. We promise you.
From what I've seen, we have no shortage in-house of gripes, pet peeves, and rants.
Absolutely. Well, that's, when you've been around the city for a long time, you actually, you see things. And I think in a lot of ways,
just shows you care.
A lot of corners have been cut compared to how it was 40, 50 years ago here. Now, I get it. We're not living in the past, but it seems like a lot of our city services and a lot of our, events and everything else are just disappearing, and it's too bad because part of what Burbank was, and the why you came to Burbank was because it was like a small city feel.
Well, it's
And
like they
we're
talk about
losing that.
the broken window theory. You know, you let the little things go, and it cascades, it snowballs, and then you start letting the bigger and bigger things go.
Well, many years ago, one of our city managers or one of our police chiefs brought that, and that is, I think, Bratton was the one that came up with that, with graffiti. You let it go, it gets blown away. The weed thing, I think it was forestry, and we've been told there's so lack of crews now, they can't even, if a tree branch falls, they can't go out safely and cut it up and move it because there's not enough employees to do that.
And they are contracting out everything now in forestry, just about, except for one crew. I think we have one crew.
Well,
Well, I think it falls into the negligence category at some point. If limbs are falling in the street and nobody's around to fix it.
Yep.
I don't know.
It's still a great city, though, people. We still
thinking out
we
loud.
still love our city. We sound like doom and gloom, but we still love our city. Ross, good show. Craig, good show. Any last comments?
Give me one of those buttons. Give me my button, or give me.
You want your button?
No,
Here's
I
your
want-
button.
You know what? Hey, that's supposed to wake me up. Where's that Petticoat Junction or Herb Alpert? Or,
Wow.
Oh, you wanted the Green Acres.
You want Green Acres a little bit?
Green
A little
Acres.
Green Acres.
There you go. I wasn't on camera for that one, but for next week.
I won't give you. I won't give you the full minute 4 version of that one I have. Okay, well that's it, everybody. We appreciate you listening or watching, and if you are, Lord help you.
Thanks for sticking around if
Absolutely.
you're still here.
But you know what? You have learned some things tonight, and you are a little more knowledgeable about things.
As have
So
I.
That's it. We will talk to you next week.
Adios, amigos.
My Burbank Talks would like to thank all of My Burbank's advertisers for their continued support. Burbank Water and Power, Cusimano Real Estate Group, Providence St. Joseph Medical Center, Burbank Chamber of Commerce, UME Credit Union, Tequila's Cantina and Grill, UCLA Health, Gain Credit Union, Community Chevrolet, Media City Credit Union, Eric Garcia of Farmers Insurance, Providence High School, UPS Store on 3rd Street, and Hill Street Cafe.